Hey everybody, I am Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. What's happening? And the no-hander here. Jan Marie, how are you? I am the noise opera. What's up, Nick? Mara, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Feisty Irish, hope you're having a good day. Karma Chameleon, Pete, Samantha Ashley, what's happening? James Sharp's back in the heels. Good. Anna Strews. Yeah, I like the live at this time too. You know what? I think this is a lot of people seem to like me at 11 Pacific. So we're probably going to stick with it. Seems like it's going the way it's supposed to, right? Wow, Pete, that's a good one. I can run with that. Is a theory to be sure. It is a theory to be sure. It requires a tinfoil hat. You know what? We have a rule here. It's rule 4. It's called mean people suck. And you got to really be careful with that one because the wrenches take it real seriously, which makes me happy. Mother Bird, good to see you. Tractor, how are you? Jay Rambo, good to see you. Crucial Flow Research, Freddie. Mad Tarts, good. James Collins Cares, there he is. And Johnny Scoville, I will be absolutely blown away. How you doing, Johnny Scoville? Lynn D, you having a rough day? I'm sorry to hear that, Lynn D. The one thing that I can tell you, and I know it's trite as hell, but it really is one of the most beneficial things you could ever come across. And you know, the fact is, whatever it is, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, you know, with that 1 being you lost a parking space, and with 10 being that you lost somebody in your family, anything in between, it is going to pass. And we don't get over the things that are that ugly. What we do is we learn to live with them. But you're among friends. I'm glad that you're not suffering in silence. I'm glad that you spoke up. Can we get some thoughts and prayers for our friend Lynn D, please? It would make me super happy. It really would. It would make me super happy. Look who's here. From all the way from Las Vegas. Christy Hughes, good to see you. Always a pleasure. Skimbleshanks. Rumple and Skimble were both. Well, how about that? Rumple and Skimble were both here today. Double trouble. Nice. Been journaling. It helps. It does, right? Journaling absolutely helps. There's no way around it. There really isn't. Thank you again, Christy Hughes, for your never-ending support, literally. Karma Chameleon, what's happening? Cranky Scientist. Lisa Trimble's here. How are you, Lisa? Jenny, good to see you. Toby Sprosty. I dig it. The Arabian Bard. Good to see you, Arabian Bard. Reminded me of my son's youth. I think he had that, the Aladdin thing on a 24-hour-a-day loop. 24-hour-a-day loop. Lumen, good to see you. Incarnasol, what's happening? Well, we're gonna do some conspiracies, people. Moonhawk, good to see you. Lindy, honestly, Lynn, I'm just happy that you're here. I really am. I'm happy that you're here. It's a tough world, and we really are. We are at a junction on this planet, and the last couple of days have proven it. Right? We're going to come together, or we're going to go apart, and we all need to just spend a little bit more time trying to move toward love. It's funny because I stress this crap all the time, and I'm sure I sound like I should be singing Kumbaya. But if what you're doing is moving you farther away from love, right? Man, pump the brakes on. And there are a bunch of people who are doing it, right? I know who you are. I'm not even playing. I do know who you are. Lindy, I'm glad you're here. Stick around, please. Stick around. This is a great group of people, and they have a way of knocking the edges off of some really bad days. They've done it for me now for years. Tina Serling, good to see you. How are you? Shannon Trim is here, right? Deanna Downey's here. What's happening? Elaine. Good to see you, Elaine. Catherine J. You know something? I am all about this. I am all about this. We need a different name for it. And do you know why? Listen, I call this conspiracy theory Thursday. But do you know what we're doing? I'm not going to bust out with the craziest conspiracy theories you've ever heard. I'm going to tell you what the press is calling conspiracy theories, what mainstream media, the people that get paid the big bucks to talk to individuals, not like us silly people, right? These are the pros, which means they got a budget and can absolutely steer the narrative in whatever direction they want. And they do, don't they? Boy, do they. Love can lead to violence. Well, shit, man, everything can lead to violence, right? Love can also lead to sex, right? Love can also lead to charity. Yeah, sure. If you love somebody enough, it'll absolutely make you do some really crazy things, but it is the greatest gift on planet Earth. It really is. And if you're moving away from that, I promise you the damage it does to your soul. You can actually look at experiments done where they just talk crap to water that's freezing to see what ice crystals look like magnified if you treat them bad versus treat them good. I'm telling you, you can quantify the fact that hate literally destroys people. It's a cancer. It is a cancer. Gordon Jackson, good to see you. A Tribe Called Duff, what's happening? Mickey King, good to see you. Galen, welcome. Freddie, good to see you. I love that. We do have a lot of nice people here, man. Really do. Feisty Kitty says, jumping in the lifeboat is my new morning ritual, and I love it. Starting my day with love and positivity. Dig that. Dig that, Tommy and fellow boaters. Dig that. Hey, Christy Hughes says this time slot works better for her. And you know what? Christy's been around a long time. She's got a juice card here. Not being a wise guy either. Yeah, it's well, long-term member here. And I'm good. I'm glad because I've been taking a lot of I haven't gotten a lot of negative. I really haven't. I haven't gotten a lot of people that don't like this time slot. There's a lot of people that really dig it. So we're going to roll with it. I think it's good. We're going to stick with it for a while and see how it goes. And you know what? Do me a favor. If you like this time slot, right, put a 5 up there. If you prefer me going off at 11 o'clock, put a 5 up there. And if you don't like it, put a 0. And by the way, from here on out, 0 is the negative one and 5 is the good one. Well, looks like Johnny Scoville has weighed in. Johnny Scoville has spoken. Well, apparently Johnny would prefer that I do this. Yes, love is definitely better than hate. You know what? There's a decent message, isn't it? Isn't it? It is absolutely a beautiful message. CGI has taken over TV, movies. You think you're seeing real people, but it's a computer image. You know what? I want to tell you something. I've talked about this before on the boat. Blue Water, good to see you. There was a really well-versed high-tech computer dude, right? And this guy put a program together. And Benita Jackson, I'm glad. You know what? Looks like 5 is going to, looks like you guys have spoken. We're going to keep this at 11. Feisty Irish, thank you. But we'll be going off we'll be doing other times, especially as things come up. Kathy, good to see you. Glad you're here. I really am. Matt Tart says tea time for me. Perfect, right? Perfect. Cuddly floof, my absolute favorite kind of floof. Not lying. If I'm getting floof, I'm getting the cuddly variety. Monk. So we're going to be talking about stuff that the mainstream media literally says, okay, this is a conspiracy theory, right? Everything that you're going to hear about this is just, BS. And they can pass judgment down on that, right? Since this is, where you at? Since we are currently in the Diddy verse more than we're any place else. And that will come to an end when this dude, when this guy finally gets out of the news cycle, and that will happen, right? That will happen. But here's one of the mainstream media says, this is absolutely a conspiracy theory. No proof to it. Shadowy ties to Tupac's death. Decades ago in the 1990s, Diddy found himself at the center of a beef with Marion Hugh Suge Knight, right? You get this? Putting the former Bad Boys records up against the latter's Death Row records. Blah, blah, blah. When you get to the end of this, right, they talk about Tupac getting capped. They talk about all of this. And then they go, no truth to it whatsoever. No truth to it. This is gang stuff. Had nothing to do with Diddy. Had nothing to do with anything. It's like, who are you? How do you just wrap that one out and go, nope, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just, hey, there you are. What's happening, Squirrel Nut Zipper? Nice. Yeah, James Sharp. There are a lot of people, right, who have kind of come to the conclusion that the guy knew him. I'm telling you right now, his struggle is with communication first and foremost. The veracity of what he says, that's up. I'm not passing judgment on that. But as a dude that does this, right, for a living, he struggles, right, to do what we're doing right now. And I'm not saying that out of any disrespect, but if you're at all intimidated by the camera and you get somebody that jumps you a little bit, right, I think that there was some deer in the headlight there. I would be a whole lot happier if it's something that I could, I don't know. If I could interview the cat, I think that would probably make me a lot happier. But that's just me. That is just me. All right. How is it? So as I'm going through this stuff, right? Some of the stuff is funny because this is, some of them you go, yeah, maybe this, there's a rumor going around that I've seen this, that Kanye West, you remember when he went up on stage, what was it, 2008, I think, or 2009 at the VMAs, the MTV VMAs. Taylor Swift was about to win the best video award, right? And Kanye jumps up and says that Beyonce had won for best video of all time. There are a lot of people out here right now that says the reason he did that, the reason he did that was because he was going to separate her from the Carters, right? From Beyonce and Jay-Z. This was his tribute to society. And I want to tell you something. This is getting run with, right? There are a lot of people who say, look, man, this guy's been playing chess for a really long time, right? He is hella sharp. He knew what he was doing. He didn't want to see Taylor Swift go down that road and start getting into the Beyonce and Taylor Swift, the Beyonce and Jay-Z crowd. That's a hell of a theory. You know what I mean? It's a hell of a theory. Speaking of CGI, is the stuff videotape Diddy and Oprah real? I don't know which one you're talking about. Honestly, I have seen a mountain. Right, of stuff that's fake. A mountain of it. And I get sent it every day, right? I get sent a lot of it every day. And I assume it's because some people may not realize that this stuff has been doctored or it's been played with or whatever. And some people, I think, would like to see me run with something that's BS so that they could go, oh no, that's BS. But it's really, really difficult to, oh yeah, you know what? There are so many fantastic rumors, right? I think you really gotta be careful. But the stuff that, if you look at for craps and giggles, right? When you're done with me today, for craps and giggles, Google, I did this. Sean Combs conspiracy theories. And what you're going to pop up is a bunch of channels, right? With names that look like, I don't know, man, with names that seem odd, right? Just odd names for the sites. Doesn't sound like, anyway, here's what you're going to find. It almost seems like this is a PR team. Honestly, it almost seems like this is a PR team because every single thing this cat has been accused of, there are sites out there going, it's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. I couldn't find 25 people that think Diddy didn't do anything wrong. But there are tons of sites that say that everything that happened is a conspiracy theory. If you got hundreds of millions of dollars, wouldn't you pay a little bit of cash, right, to try to, swing things? Oh, you know what? If that is true, that is such a juicy and fun rumor. I got to fix that. Hold on. Did you say Anton LaVey is, that is some other kind of a great rumor. Taylor Swift. Have you heard people claiming that Taylor Swift is the granddaughter of Anton LaVey? No, but that's a good one, isn't it? I mean, honestly, that's a hell of a lot of fun. Hold on 1 second. You were never invited to the white parties? Well, that doesn't sound very kind. I'm pretty sure I got a lot of invites. You know what I mean? Sometimes the stuff just, you don't get back to it in time. One of the conspiracy theories that they're talking about is the 48 hours with Justin Bieber. And I got to be really honest with you people. I'm starting to believe that I'm not saying that he didn't do things to Justin Bieber that we would all be very, very angry about, because I think that happened. But the video stuff that we see, that's not what we're looking at. I promise. All of the video stuff that's coming out about Bieber, all of that stuff it looks bad, but it isn't. I know that sounds dumb, but if you can get all of the people are taking clips, and if you catch it just right, you see things very differently than if you watch the entire thing, right? The best example of that is when he says, he's got 48 hours, we're going to go buck wild. If you see that entire tape, that was them putting on a skit. They talked about it before they did it. It was literally a skit. And everybody says Justin Bieber looked so uncomfortable. He looked so uncomfortable because he's a terrible actor, right? He was a young boy. There was a camera in his face, and they were supposed to be acting. That's the reason he said his phone number was 555, right? He had that ready to go. It looks horrible when you just take that clip out of it. I'm as guilty as anybody else. You watch that and you go, oh man, that poor kid looks so uncomfortable. What's he talking about with the phone? Now, the mainstream media will also tell you that when he's tapping Bieber like that, that's just his hello, right? He wasn't checking him for a wire. None of that went down. Okay. He was checking him for a wire. I promise you. It's exactly what he was doing, was checking him for a wire. Not trying to be, there's been many times in my life where I was worried that the next guy that was coming over was wearing a wire. I promise you that's what he was doing, man. So one of the other conspiracy theories is that he had anything to do with Kim Porter's death. This, you will find it all over the place, not here on the big red button, not on the social media platforms, but on the big dollar above, right? The, what do you call them? The mainstream, right? The BSers. You won't believe all of the people that go, yeah, no, that's just, out of hand. Look, allegedly, I don't know if the guy did it at all. I don't. But I don't think you can wholesale go, yeah, that's a conspiracy theory, especially, and I'm not, but there have been a ton of cases where when a body gets re-exhumed, we find out that first autopsy was complete and utter BS, right? A great example of this was the Drew Peterson case, right? That was absolutely a perfect example of that. In her Altoids and navel, hold on one sec, people. Sorry. You know what? Jenny Simone says, I think Bieber may have continued the cycle of abuse like Leonardo. Even Diddy himself was victimized by label executives. Allegedly. Justin is super quiet and also just randomly got married and had a kid, right? Shields. Well, here's something. Here's something that I wholeheartedly believe. Because of what's going on with Diddy right now, right? He is the boogeyman. And look, man, if you've watched my channel, you know how I feel about this dude, right? I've been real open and honest about how I feel about this dude, right? I think he's an absolute lowlife. But unfortunately, what we've got here is one of those situations now where everything is this dude's fault. So how Bieber ended up, what he talks about how bad his past was and all that, it's obviously what happened with Diddy, right? Couldn't be something else. And the truth of it is, there were a lot of people, right, that were involved in the downfall of this kid. A crap ton of them. In fact, I don't know that there's enough blame to go around when you start really looking at it. However, we're laser focused, right? I don't want this cat to become a straw man, and I bet nobody else does either. You know what I mean? And the possibilities, right? The possibilities of that happening, of this dude becoming a scapegoat for virtually everything, is going to let other people walk, right? It's going to let I don't want the guilty to get away with it because we're going to put all of this on Combs. That would be a really bad idea, man. It really would. Allegedly, a lot of people are speculating the passing of Kim because Corey Gamble was present at the house. Clean up, old Diddy. Yeah, well, there is another really interesting conspiracy theory that is going around. This one, I kind of found fascinating. And so, you know that the Michael Jackson, the death of Michael Jackson is now being tied into the Diddy verse, right? There are a lot of people that believe that the cleanup crew over at Michael Jackson's is the same cleanup crew that was at the Diddy house, right? And I'm sorry, at Kim Porter's house. So because they have this Mr. Wolf, right? Mr. Wolf's coming over to clean stuff up, right? That is kind of how it's been going down. Do you know a song called She Knows? I'm going to tell you something right now, people. Great song. I have absolutely no idea. No idea. But the song is called She Knows. And it's getting tied into this current controversy with Diddy, right? The TikTok sleuths that started this, according to mainstream media, conspiracy theory, right? The sleuths have uncovered a supposed hidden message within the lyrics of the song, which heavily reference deceased superstars Michael Jackson, Aaliyah, Left Eye, right? And Left Eye. Considering rappers' propensity for inserting call-outs into their lyrics, right? Like Kendrick Lamar and Drake and Eminem and all those people. It would come as little surprise if J. Cole had indeed hinted at Diddy's misdeeds in the song, right? Here's the lyrics that's got everybody tripping. Rest in peace to Aaliyah. Rest in peace to Left Eye. Michael Jackson, I'll see you just as soon as I die. The fact that Jackson's name got put in with everybody else has got the conspiracy universe cooking, right? Absolutely cooking. And then what gets kind of odder, again, they say that Jackson's security guard once worked for Diddy. Like there's all of this kind of incestuous stuff that goes back and forth between the both of them. And this is also interesting coincidence or maybe not, right? Jackson, Aaliyah, and Left Eye all died on the 25th day. Different months, but they all died on the 25th day. And the alleged culprits, the people that they're saying were involved, apparently were all born on the 4th day, right? But of different months. How in hell? How do you organize that before your conspiracy? We're going to need about 6 dudes, but all of them need to be born on the 4th, right? I don't care what month, but they all need to be born on the 4th because we're getting ready to whack some people. We're going to do all of them on the 25th, right? Different months. I think sometimes Mexican, I almost said wrestler. Mexican restaurant. Good to see you, man. Glad you're here. Hey, hobo. Yeah, I'm never going to get that right. Never going to get that right. So sometimes there are some really weird coincidences. I mean, honestly, did you build a team based on when the people gave birth? I think that that's a pretty crazy coincidence. Now, the fact that people died all on the 25th, James Sharp says they love their numbers. Well, you know something? One of the first things that we do, right? One of the first things we're taught is we look for patterns in things. As human beings, we look for patterns. It's what we do. And when there's numbers involved, we really start looking for them. And if you see things start to fall into place, right? If the tumblers seem to all start lining up, and I'm not saying, I'm not shooting down any of these. Unlike the people above in the mainstream media, I have watched way too many conspiracy theories come true. Right? I have way too many. This is another. What about Ashton's ex, Brittany Murphy, who also dies the same way as his buddy's wife, Kim Porter, and allegedly, so did her husband, right? Allegedly, both Brittany and her husband. This is, don't hang me. This is in several videos. I have not chased that one down. I have not started to do the deep dive on the Brittany Murphy thing. But I find it wild because back when people first started talking about, anytime someone starts bringing up a famous person's death and you start saying, nah, man, I don't see it. But once the Diddy stuff all starts to really come out, well, now you can look at something and go, yeah, bet there absolutely could have been a reason to want to bump somebody off with the things that they did to people, right? You got to believe maybe one or two of them didn't forget everything. Maybe one or two of them weren't drugged enough so that their memory was completely cleared, right? She did die not long after doing a film with Ashton Kutcher, right? And again, it makes you wonder if, right? Just speculating here, people. I'm spitballing, right? Don't get mad at me. I'm just spitballing here. But what if on the set of the film, he did something that made her wicked uncomfortable? And what if there was going to be talk about it? Or what if she was hip to the fact that these people used chemicals for the purpose of rendering people unconscious so that they could take advantage of them? You think that nobody knew what was going on? I think it's highly probable that a bunch of people knew what was going on. That's what is alleged, right? Is that this was an open secret in Hollywood. They joked about it at award shows, right? Weird crap is always talked about. It's almost like they're trying to tell us, but they're not trying to tell us. Sharona, good to see you. Yeah, Lindy, this is also part of the same narrative. You and I watched the same videos. I heard her husband was working on a documentary about the T word, right? Oh, what a nice thing to say. I really appreciate that. Maimuna, I think. Yeah. I had heard the exact same thing about the T word. Now, I'm going to have to chase these things down because very often the stuff that I hear that people just continue to say to the next person and the next person and the next person, they make videos about it, don't pan out, right? They don't pan out. And a lot of the things that, I'm more of a commentator than I am a journalist. And I kind of got to start being a journalist because the amount of misinformation in this trial is equal to or 5 times greater than the amount of real information in this trial. And the amount of real information in this trial is in the hundreds of terabytes, right? A lot of stuff out there. You know something? No one is going to call you naive here, right? This is Theory Thursday. And there are a lot of people who say Jackson didn't give off the ped vibe, right? Here's the deal with that, right? Here's the deal with that. So you wanted to carry the conspiracy theory on this one is that his dad, who was a notorious piece of crap, right, used chemicals to keep Michael from developing. This is alleged, right, that he could keep his voice high and avoid all of that getting older and having your Jackson 5 group go to hell by using chemicals to make sure that he did not get into full manhood. This is alleged by a crap load of people. Now, is it a conspiracy theory? It very well might be. But I watched an interview once with his sister, hey, Giant Smut, and it was Latoya. And Latoya said, you know what? He doesn't even, that sex doesn't, of any kind, doesn't pop up on this guy's radar. Like, it's just not, he's asexual, right? You know, they say, is he attracted to kids? I don't think he's attracted to anything. I don't think he really didn't get a chance to be a kid. Can you imagine being 5 years old or 4 years old and getting out of a limousine and having an army full of people scream your name? Holy hell, I promise. I don't think you could deal with that at 54, right? But to do that to a child? Wow, man. You know something? This I have not heard. This I have not heard. Yes, 100%, Megan. We talked about this one last week too. The grand jury is absolutely meeting, right? We know some of the people that got subpoenaed to it, right? We know that that Courtney Burgess got subpoenaed, right? Been on the Sean Atwood program multiple times. This is the individual who got into a heated debate, right? A spirited debate between he and Jaguar Wright. If you saw that, right, throw a 5 up in there. You guys, did the majority of you see this? Because I'm not going to waste time talking about it if you guys are not aware of what's going on. You follow me? I don't really want to start getting too deep in the weeds if you're not aware of what I'm talking about. You know something? This. All right. So a lot of you did see it. Alrighty. It's impossible for somebody to hang themselves from a doorknob. And as an ex-heroin user and knowing both Anthony Bourdain and Chris Cornell were as well, guaranteed a doorknob wouldn't be their choice. Now, this is an argument as a recovering heroin addict. This is an argument that I have made not only for Anthony Bourdain, but for other people as well. All right, Kurt Cobain. Heroin addicts don't shoot themselves, right? They, if you've been addicted to that drug, you would like to see what it feels like, right? To push that just a little bit further, right? And I promise you that it resonates with me. Now, I have seen people in prison hang themselves from things that you would not believe, right? If you're dedicated, you don't need a noose, you don't need anything. All you need to do is sort of lay your and I'm not going to give an instruction manual on that, right? But I do believe that, it was suspect, and I think everybody thought it was suspect. You know something? This is very interesting, isn't it? This is very interesting. Here's a theory. They tell us in movies because they have a rule that they need consent from us, our silent consent. Interesting, right? Really, really interesting. Sorry. Elaine J., I will have to check that out. So does that extend to Robin Williams' doorknob checkout? Here's the thing. That I kind of have to disagree with it just because, right? I honestly, you would not believe, and again, this isn't the subject matter I want to get into too much, but you can do yourself from a doorknob. It's again, probably not the smartest of things to do, right? There are better ways to be sure, right? Well, I'll be damned. James Sharp, I was not aware of that. Sub Rosa, love the name, man. Love the name. You know what's really funny? I was talking to somebody the other day, good friend of mine, and I actually brought up the name. I said, I've never seen a YouTube channel called Sub Rosa, because you would think you would, right? Makes a crap load of sense, but Cuddly Floof, how are you? Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Informed consent is part of the black magic spell. Well, I'll tell you something. One more reason to avoid all of that crap that gets pumped out to us by Hollyweird and by the mainstream media and by all of that crap, right? By all of that crap. Oh, well, thank you. That's nice, right? Good evening from Ireland. I just want to say the new equipment is much better. Fair play, Tommy and Cal. Thank you. I'm glad that you're liking it. Anne Marie, we're going to let this one slide, right? A little bit late, no big deal. You don't really get rolling over here on the boat until about 30 minutes in anyway. So your timing is just about epic, right? Your timing is just about epic. Sorry, just doing a little. Having the two system setup is really, really I know you're probably hating seeing the side of my head instead of me looking at the camera, but this makes life so much easier. So, mainstream media says, are you ready, people? There are no tunnels under the Diddy house. None. They say that this spiraled out of control because following the raid of the house, the people that raided the house said, yes, there were tunnels underneath the house. And they actually described it, right, as like a labyrinth. That's not the word they used. I can't remember the word they used, but there was a network, right? They described a network of tunnels going off in different directions. And kind of like what happened at Roswell, New Mexico, right? Where they say, Roswell, New Mexico, where we have captured a flying saucer. And then the following morning they go, it's a weather balloon. You can see how we could make the mistake between the two of them because they look a hell of a lot alike, don't they? I mean, they really do. They look a hell of a lot alike. Looking good, bro. Rocking the polo shirt. I'll have to come up and raid the lifeboat panel sometime. Got to set your monitors side by side. You can't do that here, unfortunately. I can't do that here, unfortunately. And if you saw the entire setup, you would you'd understand why. I actually have things everywhere. Here's another thing. And I know that a lot of people absolutely are losing it on this one. And I absolutely understand why. But allegedly, Courtney has the word pizza on his license plate. I mean, you want to talk about setting off a universe by accident? Truthfully, right? This is funny. You saw my thumbnail today, right? I had the thing set up to take the picture, right? And the timer and all that. So I took about 4 of them and I was going through and I had made the thumbnail. And when I looked at it, I was doing one of these numbers with my hands. And absolutely, I promise you, I wasn't doing it intentionally. So back to the tunnels. They are saying that after the people who actually were there, right? The people who actually went into the house who said that underneath the house was a network of tunnels. They've backpedaled and said, no, that's not actually the case. They didn't come out with a better story. They didn't. They just said, no, that's not the case. Seems really odd to me, right? Seems really, really odd to me. Cuddly Floof says there are that Hefner was next door. Yeah. There is a lot of people talking about the fact that there were, between the 2 houses. Lynn D, no, you didn't waste your money. Here's the thing. So do we know that the book is real? I don't know that any of us could say with any kind of authority whether or not the book was real, right? This is one of those things that you're going to have to kind of make up your own mind on. But how are you going to make up your own mind, right? Yeah, how are you going to make up your own mind if you don't read it? I think it's a great idea. I read it. I read both. I'm a little bummed out that there were 2. I'm a little bummed out that there was a PG version, right? Especially if you knew you were going to release the other one. Starts to seem like a bit of a money grab, right? Starts to seem like a bit of a money grab. That's all. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it does, when you're going to roll out 2 of the same, especially since the first one, there's no change. The only difference becomes, well, we're going to tell you the names, right? We're going to tell you the names. That seems like an incredible setup. But sorry. Yeah, James Sharp. It's a great comment. It's a great comment because it is absolutely the truth. Hold on. Avena Sativa. I would love to put that your comment up. So if everybody can get a good look at Avena Sativa's comment, because I'm not going to put it up because of that word will get this video buried. But I'm not either. I never bought into to the people that were going hard on that. However, just because I don't align with a group of people doesn't mean that what the group of people is saying is completely based in BS, because I don't think it was. I don't. The Wizard of Oz, 100 years old, and they've been doing this in Hollywood since. In fact, they've been doing it in Hollywood since before that, right? I think the first one that, if you start going back and looking for like really crazy stories, the first one that that you're going to come across is probably the Fatty Arbuckle deal, where they killed a girl at a freak off, right? There's no other way to put it. That they were doing what sounds very much like freak offs, and this guy was inserting a champagne bottle places where it shouldn't have been inserted, and ended up killing the woman. And he was Fatty Arbuckle. I don't even think they were speakies. I think that in the days of Fatty Arbuckle, that these were films that didn't even have sound yet. Somebody can check that if you want. But Christy Hughes says, I would build a tunnel. They're everywhere in Vegas. I have heard that there is the city under Vegas is as impressive as the city above it. And I heard that from somebody who was I was in prison with. He had an 048 number, right? So he was definitely from that part of the world. And he said he was homeless. And every night, that's where he went down. He said, you would not believe the number of people that are in the tunnels underneath the city. And basically the sewers, right? But whew. Judy Garland was absolutely drugged as well. Shane, there you go. Shane, thank you, my friend. Shane is tossing over some... So we're going to see whether or not, absolutely, 100%. So this has been 3 Z's and 2 A's, folks. I don't know if it's going to pick that up. Yeah, I think it will. Can you see that, folks? That is it most assuredly says pizza on the license plate. So now you could love pizza and have no idea. If you got that nickname in 1978, right? However, it's still going to make those of us who occasionally don a tinfoil hat, like myself, it's going to make us pause. Is it not? Ooh, Sean's got one that this got some traction at one time. Gene Deal covered all the underground tunnels he operated. You know something? I believe Gene Deal more often than I believe everybody else. I'm just saying, I find that guy. Yes, flooding is scary when you're homeless. Yeah, those because Vegas is completely flat, man. When it rains, like all that water's going somewhere, right? And it's going somewhere fast. It's true. Lavina Sativa, great comment. We live in an upside down world. We really do. We live in an inside out, upside down world. We need to deprogram ourselves and ask questions in each corner of the consciousness. We also, right? We also need to start becoming, closer as a species. We need to start connecting with one another again. We need to spend a lot less time, right, doing mindless things. My kid talked about video games this morning. It's the listed as the #1 health problem in South Korea. They're willing to admit that they've got massive numbers of people who play video games for 6 to 8 hours a day, right? That's a friggin' addiction. That is a hardcore addiction. And it does in the brain the same kind of thing that blow does, right? Yeah, 5 guys are going to roll off of a private jet and take on the Sinaloa cartel. Why not, right? Hey, if you happen to be in the Sinaloa cartel, I mean, no disrespect. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding, right? Would never say anything like that, ever. I'm afraid of you, you know. No, seriously, I don't often talk about. I don't talk about clubs. He has a nice car, by the way. He's got a beautiful car, the one that says pizza on the back of it. James Sharp says, my first divorce was because of a shopping addiction. We have a lot of people on the lifeboat who struggle with shopping addiction. It's a very, very real addiction. Super real. And you know what? The reason that this is called the lifeboat is because all of us are in the same boat. Doesn't matter what you're addicted to. It doesn't. People who have an addiction to shopping and somebody that has an addiction to blow, you may look at them as 2 completely different individuals, and there's nothing about that that's in common, except everything that's going on inside the brain, which is identical. The symptoms are different. One guy's got to go cop stuff on the street, and the other person is spending money and actually getting something back for it. But you're not, the buzz is that whole process of looking, and it's we're all in the same boat, people, I promise. Yeah, that connect word. And we're going to keep talking about that connect word because honestly, this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, right? We really need to begin spending a lot more time connecting with people. We stopped doing it. And it started to drive us into unbelievably separate corners, right? Oh, good for you, Pete. Speedballs are the worst, man. Absolutely the worst. They will tear up your veins horribly as well. We can't forget about poor Natalie Wood, who did herself in by drowning. She was terrified of water, guys. You know what else? That case is, right? They basically know who it is, right? They basically have a really good idea, allegedly, but, you know, they've been able to act their entire life and just have a great life while Natalie Wood allegedly drowned. Beautiful girl. It's just a terrible, terrible story. Really was. Just a terrible story. Young. Absolutely disgusting. Sophia says a social media detox did wonders for my life. I love that. I love that. James Sharp, 13 years on September 21st. Well played, my man. Nothing that we talk about today, I promise you, is going to be any as important as is going to be as important as that. Really, by the way, Dangerous Journeyman, if you happen to come across this, the package you were talking about, I got yesterday. They did not deliver it before yesterday. And it looked like I was so afraid when I got it because the outside of the box looked like the box that Ace Ventura kicks the hell out of in the opening scene. Of it really looked like they had beat it up. There was a thing put on the outside of it, right? Apologizing for the damage. But the product inside was absolutely flawless. It looked beautiful. And I really do appreciate it. The first thing that happened to a squirrel went and jumped on it. Sorry, people, but I was pretty excited about that Afghan. 14 years in October, Christy Hughes. We're gonna have to have a celebration. I'm gonna get everybody rolling here. Peppers, weed exposure, my kind of people here. Went through bankruptcy because of a shopping addiction. QVC and HSN, absolutely. And you know what? I've met people that have done that 3 times, right? Because relapse is relapse. Whether you're going back to dope or whether you're going back to shopping, relapse is relapse. There's absolutely no difference between the two of them. You see, we're all in the same boat. It really does work that way. I promise you it does. We got to start taking a really good, hard look at the things that the big media says, because they're pushing a narrative. And you can find out a hell of a lot about what's going on by what narrative they're pushing. And I'm terrified because honestly, the narrative that you tend to see by the people who are, if you're just Googling stuff and Binging stuff, the narrative seems to be that everything that people are talking about when it comes to Diddy, all of that, it's all BS. It's all BS. It's all conspiracy theories, man. It's all conspiracy theories. Gave up alcohol, nicotine, and Ativan. Lorazepam. Tough drug to give up. Smoked dope all day long. Marlon, congrats. Jenny says, I like speedballs, ironically injecting it. Perhaps the best delivery method when done sanitary. Yeah, hard on the liver. Yeah, that taste is what used to get, it's a very odd thing that you put it in the vein and you taste it instantly. It's a very, very weird thing. 6 years for Candy's life. You know what, people? How cool a community, man. How cool a community. Come together and talk about things that we find a common interest in. But there's that undercurrent of, you know what? Every one of us is fighting something. Every single one of us, right, is fighting something. And it's a beautiful thing, right? Especially when the people around you support you. It's nice to go to a place where there's not a crap load of negativity. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Come on, join in when you know it. Come on, join in when you know it. Addiction is so vast in today's society. Food, drugs, alcohol, shopping, social media, video games, sex, pornography, gambling. Booyah. I think you pretty much covered that, right? You know how hard it is to find someone that's not hooked into any of that, right? None of that. Don't do any of those things, right? Jenny says, as a chronic pain person, I'd love if the drug laws were relaxed and I could just go to the apothecary and get my own medicine like the old days. Problem is criminalization. This is one of those things that, I absolutely will tell you that if I make mistakes. And I started out this channel thinking that the concept of a legalization of anything is maybe the dumbest thing ever. And over time, when I was thinking about that as a concept, I wasn't embattled in it. I didn't know thousands of people, right? And watching all of these things happen and watching people OD for no other reason than the laws force them to go and get a supply that is literally killing them. They know it's killing them, but they can't stop because it's a disease. And that is really, really awful. It's really, really awful. James Sharp says the criminalization is political because they open the door for the beast from the East to make billions off of the fent. Boy, it sure as hell seems that way, doesn't it? It really does. Number one cause of death in this country. If you're tired of me saying that, I'm not going to stop. The number one cause of death in this country is drugs. Overdoses. And that's a frightening thing. No, there are people who are addicted to organized religions. There absolutely are. It's a fine line, between religion and cult. Very often, dance is a very fine line, and sometimes people go into things with the best of intentions and find themselves being manipulated by some pretty ugly people. Sadly, that's real. You see some of those. You can go and look at some of those preachers that heal people and see some of the ones that go bad, where all of a sudden you can hear the thing in the person's ear, and oh God, it's cringy, isn't it? It's really, really cringy. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Sorry, people. I feel I get the most support from this community. I love this, man. I really do. You've really brought a great thing to the recovery and harm reduction world. Thank you, Candy's Life. That means the world to me. You know what? There wasn't a place that I felt did a decent job of representing me, right? Everywhere I went, they wanted to say, so the problem is your parents sucked. I'd be like, we haven't even started talking, right? We haven't even started talking. But the business model used to be, for a very long time, you went in and the first thing they did was try to find somebody to blame all of your addiction on. Because if they can make sure that you don't feel guilty for the things that you've done, right? If you can put it on someone else, then they think they got a better shot, right? They got a better shot of keeping you sober if they can, get you into that mindset of dad screwed you up, mom screwed you up. Plenty of times they did, right? Plenty of times it's the person's parents. I would say more often than not, it's something that happened when they're kids. So very often it is. But you can't figure that out in the parking lot, right? You'd like to get into the place, sit down, start talking about yourself a little bit. But I went through a lot of crap where they literally were trying to diagnose you instantly. As soon as you walked in, let's talk about your childhood. And some of us had decent childhoods and still ended up drug addicts. This is a disease. And absolutely, there are social, aspects to the disease, right? We're all running from something. We're all trying to make sure that we can feel comfortable in our own skin when we don't, right? For real, that's what it was. We feel really uncomfortable in our own skin. And we do whatever we got to do to make ourselves feel comfortable. Sugar, one of the biggest drugs in the world. I do a show. If you go back and look through the old stuff, I do a show about sugar. And on that show, I brought out a bag of how much sugar, right, goes into a can of Coca-Cola. And it would absolutely blow your mind. Honestly. I mean, there's so much. It's like there's a troy ounce. It's like 32 grams of protein or something in there. It's absolutely ridiculous. And worse, sorry, but is the fake stuff, right? The worst is the fake stuff because it's so much sweeter than actual sugar that it starts doing stuff inside your body that is even worse. Cuddly floof, and I'll say again, my favorite kind of floof. Thank you, Candy's Life. Cuddly Floof says, I worked my off to do a master's degree in pharmacy in my 40s. When you see behind that curtain in a pharmacy, I walked away as I felt like a government drug dealer. That was in 2009. It's called ethics. Wow. You know what? 2009 was jumping too. That had to be a tough time to watch, right? Really, you want to talk about, it was a drug mill. It was a pill mill. The whole country was doing a pill mill thing, right? There were billboards saying pain specialty clinic, next exit, 10 miles to pain center. Oh man, it was bad. It was bad. I did a lot of time with a lot of people that were filling up buses full of homeless people, right? Full of anybody they could get that had an ID. And they would drive 60 of them, right? Down the entire East Coast and just keep hitting all of the pill mills, right? Picking up as much as they possibly can and then heading on back to sell them for $1 a milligram. When that crap came out, when OxyContin came out, it was $1 a milligram. You had an $80 oxy they sold for $80, right? I find it amazing that that could be smoked, it could be snorted, it could be shot, right? You could do it any way you wanted. After so many people got addicted and all these overdoses and all this stuff, they went, oh, you know what? We should have made this so you couldn't snort it, you couldn't shoot it, you couldn't. What? They had the technology to do that before they did, but right? They wanted to make a crap load of money. They wanted to make a crap load of money. That would be the Sackler family. You can go back and watch the video I did on the Sacklers too. The lowlives, absolute lowlives, right? One of the worst things ever. Those people are just awful, awful people. When they told, allegedly, they told the Arthur's son. I can't remember what the name of. I'm missing his name now. But when they told the Sackler who was running the business at that time that what the actual addiction rate was, because they had been telling people that it was 4%. In all of the literature and everything else, 4%, 4 out of 100 people get addicted. When they found out it was double digit, right? And it was closer to 20 at that point, 20% or 1 in 5. Allegedly, the dirtbag said, really? I thought it would have been higher than that. These are great people. Made $13 billion, right? And the government's going to fine them $7, I believe, right? So if you make $13 billion, right, cranking out drugs that enslave a huge percentage of the population, right, causing the crisis that we're in right now, right? All of those deaths are at their doorstep. Over 1 million people, right? Over 1 million people. What do you get for that? Well, you only get to keep half of your 13 billion, right? Boho, God bless you. Well, shit. My name is Boho, and I'm definitely a sugar addict. What's next? I love all the crappy stuff. Well, it is a really good idea, right? To start trying to figure out just exactly why we do the things that we do. See, that was my problem, right? For decades, I thought what I got to do is figure out a way to stop doing smack, right? Heroin. I got to stop, figure out a way to stop it. I got to figure out a way to stop it. What I needed to figure out was why I was doing it in the first place. Drugs, whether they're sugar, right? Because all of these things are going to fire chemicals in your brain, your own drugs, right? That are going to come out. No matter what's flipping that switch, right? You're getting something out of it. What causes you to feel the need to drug? Whether it's with a drug or alcohol or food, right? Or any of those things, or self-harm, right? We have a lot of people with eating disorders, that both directions. People that don't eat and people that eat way, way too much. Yeah, don't eat salt licorice too, please. It's a solid warning right there. From personal experience, the synthetic opioids are really toxic and don't work. They've made Suboxone so you can't get high and reformulated the methadone to probably, it really is one of those things where the synthetics, the opioids, are really starting to get frightening, especially the stuff that's on the street now. And here's I wanted to wait until we were deep into this so I got as many people here as possible. I'm going to tell you my favorite conspiracy theory, right? Ever. Here's my favorite conspiracy theory. DARPA. You know who DARPA is, right? Okay. So DARPA was funding some research, right, to come up with a V. You know what it is? Right? Those things that we were doing back then when everybody was wearing our stuff on their face. They wanted, hey, Kristen Melinda, they wanted to find a V for opioids. They wanted to find something that if you were to do this stuff, right, it would bind to it so that it couldn't pass through the blood-brain barrier. Something along those lines. I'm no scientist. But this is, by the way, everything I've said up to this point is not a conspiracy theory. That's why I didn't say allegedly. This is it. Right, our military were the people that were bankrolling the people doing this investigation. Why would they need a vaccine, right, for that? It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? It does if you intend to use it as a weapon, right? A lot of times we confuse fentanyl and carfentanil, They're two different substances, right? Carfentanil will help an elephant that is in pain. And I'm not being funny, right? That is exactly what it is for. It is not for human beings, right? You can't cut that enough. There is no way that you could cut it enough to be ingesting it. Every once in a while, some jackwagon will get a hold of some and we'll hear a story about it. This is the stuff that literally just coming into contact with could take you off of planet Earth, right? So what if they were going to use that as a weapon? And what if everything that's been happening in this country, right, for the last however long has been market research, so to speak, right? Been figuring all of this out. Because if you were to, you've seen people spray crops, right? Well, if you were to come through and just spray a fine mist of carfentanil, right, and wipe out an entire city, you could go in a day later, especially if you had been inoculated. You could go in a couple of days later and start cleaning up, hosing things down, right? No boom, no destruction. Hell, you can go in there and start grabbing all the natural resources, living in the buildings, all that. I think it's a possibility. Why else would the military be bankrolling that, right? Because they've got so many people in the service that are addicted to this. Well, if that's the case, you don't need one of those. You know, what you need to do is start getting them to figure out why they're taking the drug, right? Why you're eating, why you're gambling, why you're doing any of those things, sex. And the way you figure that out is there's a couple of ways. One of them is going to be you're going to talk to a therapist and you're going to start working through all of that stuff. If anyone has ever prescribed mirtazapine, I don't know what that is. I do not know what that is. Dale Green says, I take about 1 gram of ketamine a day for my mental health, but I'm not sure if it's safe to do that much. Any advice? Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not a doctor, right? And I couldn't tell you what a safe amount of ketamine is and what an unsafe amount of ketamine is. But I will tell you this. As a drug addict, I remember doing Special K, and a gram of it is a pile, bro. Like, that's a ton of dope. If I were you, I would talk to a doctor and ask the doctor what he thinks, right, or what she thinks, because this is a very seriously. That sounds to me to be way more, right? That's a frightening to me anyway. But are you doing this through a? Are you doing this through a service? Do you have a doctor that's working with you? I really hope you do, right? I hope that you're not scoring this stuff on the street and doing a G a day, right? That would be terrifying. Chrissy Hughes says, I live 5 minutes from Nellis Air Force Base, and Area 51 is close to, and weapons are number one, period. Well, I'm a little freaked out. I'm a little freaked out by the fact that they're talking about that they're bankrolling the development of a V, right, for opioids. Seems really, really odd to me. Unless, of course, it's going to be, right? Unless, of course, it's a weapon, right? Because they're always into weapons. They dig that stuff. Project Paperclip, declassified, and they admit to it. You can find it on the you-know-who's website. Montauk, Project Montauk, MKUltra. It's all admitted, but they count on people not digging too deep. This is a fact. I've told this story many times on here, but in prison, we do FOIA all day long, right? Because there's nothing else to do. So everybody does it. And I had never learned, and a guy said to me, hey, have you used because you can only do a certain amount of them a year. He said, have you used your FOIAs? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, right? I just don't know what you're talking about. He's like, Freedom of Information Act. I said, no, I've never filled one of those out. He's like, let me use your name, right? And what he was trying to get information on was MKUltra. Now, if it didn't exist, then they couldn't send you any information on it. They'll send you information on it. I promise. You do the Freedom of Information Act, you'll get it. I got a stack about that high. And they throw in random papers from stupid stuff. It could be, stuff about how to fix a Jeep. It could be stuff about anything that might have been laying around. And they put stuff out of order and in wrong numbers. And so much of it is redacted. But none of that matters. What matters is, right, It's there, right? Can't really deny it. You can't deny it. We had a K2 clinic close here in Colorado. The doc was injecting women and men, but was essaying the women while they were asleep. You had a ketamine clinic close in Colorado. God help us. God help us. The ketamine is, I'm not trying to bum anybody out, but ketamine, if I'm not mistaken, somebody smart can look this up for me, but I'm pretty sure it is an analog of PCP, right? And that I find frightening, right? Because PCP is a rugged substance. Gaslit. There does seem to be a Scientology vein that kind of runs through a lot of stuff. I will admit that. I really will. I will admit that. Sophia, what exactly is it? I mean, is it a what do they give it for, Sophia? What do they give you that substance for? I would be curious because I'm not familiar with it. As a pre-med before surgery, says Cuddly Floop. Floof, rather, sorry. Okay. If that's something that they're giving you before surgery, as they were giving it to you as an antidepressant, damn. PCP is most assuredly angel dust. Ketamine is a structural analog of the dissociative anesthetic and recreational drug penicillin. I'll be damned. How about that? I happen to be right. Doesn't always happen, but that is an analog of a very frightening substance. Now, I'm not a doctor, right? And I'm not a chemist, but I've done a decent amount of ketamine. And I'll tell you something, it's a rugged damn drug. And if you do too much of it, then I would imagine that it's very, very close to feeling like PCP, because you end up with the K-hole. I don't know if you've ever experienced that or heard people talk about it, but if you've ever taken a pair of binoculars and turned them around the opposite way and looked through them, that's what K-hole looks like. Like you're laying at the bottom of a well looking up. It's an absolute horrific feeling. Risperidone is the med that can cause men to grow breasts. I'm a woman and it was prescribed years ago. I will say my boobs were huge and I didn't know why at the time. Risperidone. That's actually really funny. Gynecomastia, right? I think that's what that's called when men develop female breast tissue. They were telling people back in the day that marijuana was going to make that happen to you. Wasn't a great idea. Spravato, says James Sharp, is an FDA approved, can only be gotten through the prescription, and is a nasal ketamine. I wonder how much of that you're getting per spray, because I didn't do this stuff legally, right? I did it illegally, and I did it a couple of times in liquid where you got it in little vials. The vast majority of times I did it in powder. It looked like blow, and you sniffed it, right? That's how I did it most of the time. But when I was doing it that way, it's a very, very strong drug, and 1 gram of it would have been terrifying. If you're doing a gram a day, I hope you talk to your doctor. Brit P, you saw somebody with a vape who said that they were vaping DMT. How odd. If there's probably people here who could do a better job explaining this. This is another one of those drugs that really started to come into popularity after I had already quit, right? After I had already gotten out of there. But I believe it is tied to the same kind of ingredients that are in ayahuasca. I believe. I could be wrong. It's a very strong dissociative drug that doesn't last very long. Right. My understanding on this is that there's almost like a salvia kind of effect to it, right? Where you hit this stuff and you get absolutely wrecked, but not for a long period of time. James Sharp asks, do they have LSD vapes? I don't think so. James Sharp says vaping DMT. Wow. Right. No, I've never seen them vape LSD. LSD is given out in horrifically small amounts, right? That stuff is put on paper, right, in micrograms. Hey, can I help you? Currently live on my show. Okay, then. I was going to make a tinfoil hat, but somebody used the rest to cover lasagna. Love that. I really love that. James Sharp, I got you. I got you. Psilocybin for depression. Okay. So there are people who are advocates for the concept of micro dosing psilocybin. So they take really, really, really small amounts of shrooms every day. Not enough that even on the first day would ever get you, you're not going to feel it, right? There's no trip. There's no disassociation. You're not going to get that ooh, trippy kind of a feeling, right? But the theory behind it is it's going to help with things like depression and other stuff. I can't answer to that. I've done a decent amount of psilocybin, right? I've done a decent amount of psilocybin. Louise Barry music. Think of it like a building block, right? Think of it like a building block. It is one of the, it is a component, acts exactly like it a lot of times. For instance, the fent that is on the street, right? The fent that is on the street is not fent. It's an analog of fent. It is you're knocking off a lot of the stuff to get to it's like a bathtub version, honestly, a lot of times, but it's always tied back. It's like a building block. It's always tied back to the same stuff. I would theorize. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Need a half a pound of mushrooms? Can I mail them? Yeah. No, not even a micro trip. No, well, here's the thing. The people who are advocates of microdosing are talking about, I mean, really little bit amounts. Now, there's another group of people out there who are advocates for the use of psilocybin, but they say, no, man, you take a heroic dose, right? You take a bunch of it, 4, 5, 6 grams, something like that. And then you go sort of on a journey into your own mind, right? So that you can try to work through some of your problems. Now, I have seen this work beautifully for people. However, right? They did it in such a way where there were individuals. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. The cheapest version, right? The cheapest way that they can make it. Now, currently, they're moving away from fent because you can make it considerably cheaper, right? You can make your pills considerably cheaper if instead of using fent, you use the nitazines, right? Yeah, Catalina, the carfentanil, yeah, is not. It's supposed to be used for things that weigh thousands of pounds, right? Talk about how Musk is planning to crash the economy and throw out the dollar, and we'll lose all of our money. I'm not sure that I'm convinced anyone will lose any money. There have been times in this country before where there have been situations where the government came in and actually changed things about the currency. Think of it as a stock split. If they came out with a new currency, whatever you had in dollars, there would be a period of time where you trade that in for the newer currency. That would be the theory. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm not even saying that they're gonna pull it, but that would be the theory behind that. Elon Musk is from outer space. TC, that's a good one right there. That's a great one. I like that. Yeah, Deb says carfentanil. Think of the weight of a car, right? Like if you're having something, if your Ford F-150 is feeling some pain, right? That's what you want to give to your truck. Kristen Melinda loses all of her money perfectly well on her own. I love that. Good for you. Good for you. Nitazines, that's something I'd love to try with the amount of pain I'm in. Most of the time, I wouldn't mind accidentally not waking up. Oh, please don't say that. Please don't say that. And I'm sorry that you're going through that. There's nothing that hurts more than watching people that are living in pain. And you should be able to take whatever you need to so that your quality of life is better. I've always believed that. Nitazines maybe not such a great idea, just because the reason they didn't go, the reason that they didn't roll forward with nitazines, the reason that this stuff never got any traction at all, is because it wasn't stable enough. You know what I mean? This is a substance that you kind of need stability in the stuff if you're going to treat people with it, so that there's not, you're not going to have as much of a chance for constant overdose. If you know what I'm saying. James Sharp says, I broke my neck in 3 places and learned to walk after being in a rest home for 10 months. Wow. Wow. Fantastic. Good for you. Good for you. Cats are magical creatures. Everyone should have a cat. Boy, can anybody argue with that? I think Dale Green, again, I'm not a doctor, right? So I would talk, if I were buying it on the street, because I don't know how you're getting it. The stuff that I did on the street would not have been safe to do a gram a day, right? But that's a street drug. I don't know whether or not you're going to see a professional. Are you doing this with the care of a doctor, or are you buying this on the street? I'm definitely not somebody that's, I'm not solid enough, right? I'm not the guy that can make those kind of proclamations, right? Really not the guy to ask. However, depending on how you're getting it, if you're buying street drugs and you're doing a gram of any street drugs in America, right? You're buying and doing a gram a day of anything powdered in America. You're buying it on the street. You're absolutely taking your life in your own hands, because there's nothing that they're not putting a really strong opioid into, including blow, which makes absolutely no sense if you look at it just from the chemicals, right? Why would you want to, right? Why would you want to put something in something going up, right? Pharmaceutical K is stronger than street K. If that is the case, then it sounds like a horrifically large dose, but I'm not a doctor. You can train a cat to not go on counters and tables. Yeah, I just kind of let mine go. Maybe it's not such a great thing, but Squirrel Nut Zipper kind of has the run of the place. She really does. You're in the UK and it's shards ketamine. Oh, God, Dale Green. Please go talk to a doctor. Please go talk to a doctor. That's a lot. Now, I don't know what's going on in your country. I know what's going on in my country. And in this country, there is not a safe supply to buy anything powdered, period. There just isn't. There's also not a safe supply to buy anything in pill form. Does that mean you couldn't get powder that's not going to kill you? No, you could. But if you were to do it every day, you're going to get a batch that's going to get you. That's this country. The number one cause of death in America is overdose. You know what I mean? For real. Number one cause of death is overdose. Xylazine is an alpha-2 androgenic agonist, and an overdose of other drugs of this class, such as clonidine, right, or any of the other guaifenesin. I don't know what that one is. Will present similarly to a xylazine overdose. So clonidine, which is clonazepam, right? No. Clonazepam is, what is clonidine? I don't know why I know that word. Clonidine. Christy Hughes, thank you so much. Christy is turning people green. And people always look good in green. Michelle says, also DMT is quite pricey. If you're doing pure stuff, there are full documentaries on it out there. It's not something that I would normally associate with something that somebody would want in a vape, right? I figure if you vaping something, right, That's you do it because it's convenient. You can go wherever you want and hit the vape or whatever. But to hit a drug that is so friggin' strong, right? That it's going to, you're going to have disassociative effects. Like you're going to be questioning the difference between reality and not reality. Probably not the best thing to put into a vape, but that's just my humble opinion. They used to sell PCP as powdered, like Coke and THC. Over here, right? The only time I have ever seen, it's an allergy med, clonidine. Okay. I'm confused. I know the word, and it very well may be that because I definitely have heard of it. They're both benzos. Benzodiazepines. An interesting little side note about benzos, right? The Sackler family was the first family ever, right? They were the first drug that was ever advertised for was Valium. Arthur Sackler invented the advertising of drugs. There is a museum dedicated to drug marketing. Believe it or not, there is a drug marketing museum. In that drug marketing museum, yes, I am, my friend. In that drug marketing museum, Arthur Sackler is one of the first people ever put in. That family is downright evil. Sorry, they are. And I'm not saying allegedly on that. That family is downright evil. Hear me? Hear me? All right, people, I am going to hop off this, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to be heading over to the Sean Atwood program. I'll pop over there in about 35 minutes. This one ought to be good, right? All righty, people, I really do appreciate the hell out of you. Nicole, I don't like them either, right? They, as far as I'm concerned, they had a hand in my downfall. Most of it was me. Make no mistake. Most of it is me. But they had a hand in my downfall, right? All righty, people. I'm Tommy. I'll see you on the next one. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. Bye-bye now.